Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons. Thank you for your support. Enjoy the video. Hey there guys, GMO73 here, bringing you a feature match for the week between myself on a Chamimi Beasts list versus my friend Aaron playing the traditional black-white Altar Brunhild that was kind of made into the limelight by Derek Mugunesa when he played it in the Bethlehem GP. So we're going to kind of see if Chamimi, with the help of the new things like Molmi and Arwen and 3 Beast Conference, can push through damage fast enough to overtake the Altar list. So with that, we are going to go ahead and jump right in. Chamimi Beasts is going to be on the draw, which is not particularly bad, especially based on what Aaron gets as his turn 1. If we don't see an Altar or a Layla here on turn 1 from Aaron, then it's pretty good for Chamimi. If there is that turn 1 Layla, then obviously we have to start working around it as the Chamimi player. Calling a stone, we see a darkness stone off the top, and we do see there's that Layla in hand, so that's going to come down on turn 1. It's a little bit of a rough start, but we're still probably pretty okay with that. We are going to go ahead and, before we even jump into turn 1, really go ahead and explore the unknown. Main reason to do this so early is especially if the deck, if you don't have a Lorite in hand, it's really helpful to be able to go grab one. It's also helpful to be able to kind of keep consistency up of the deck by grabbing something like Mike or a second beast if you need to play a Hippo. Lots of different options here. We are going to see the Hippo come down on turn 1, followed up by a Mike, and then we're going to leave the 1 stone up. So this gives us access to Altar. The main reason to, Lowrite potentially. The main reason to do that here would be if he plays the Altar and sacks the Altar to Layla, then we Lowrite the Layla trigger to get him a stone. That actually is pretty advantageous, and then it kind of really slows down the Altar deck. So we are going to see Altar come down here, and then choosing not to immediately sack it, which makes sense. He probably wants to go ahead and wait until he has access to Power of Immortality from the Rune deck. It's what the deck kind of does best. Thankfully, the green deck does have, things like Fairer Spell and stuff to be able to answer that. But we're going to go ahead and say, let's go into combat here. See if we can force him to block with the Layla. Chooses not to, chooses to take the damage, which we're also just fine with, 3,400. Play an Arwen here, and then play a second Arwen. So just still representing Lowrite in hand, and also being able to protect our own guys, as well as just have a massive potential major swing for upwards of 26 damage coming at him next turn to just really force him to say, cool, you've spent your first couple turns ramping, we're going to be hitting you with a lot of pressure. Ultimately, though, we don't see the Lowrite to stop the Layla trigger. He's going to get the stone here, going to 4 stones on his turn. We're pretty okay with that. We might want to try and save on the Lowrite for what he sacrifices the Altar to, especially if he combos off. We do have potential Fairer Spell if he's going to try to, quick cast in anything here during the upkeep to try to ruin our play lines or anything else like that. It is worth noticing that in this version of the Chamimi list, we are not playing Whirlwind Technique. We are playing the Fuma Shuriken, but that's just to help keep our divinity count where we need it to be. Calling for a stone, hitting 4th stone. We see we have a Spear of the Valkyrie in hand, so that's not really going to do much. That looks like an Oborozuki. So not really much in the way of aggression in that hand. And looks like the other cards in the hand are a 4-drop Oborozuki, another Look of Corruption, and then the Spear. Which is not, unfortunately, going to do much against this current board state. He'd only be potentially sacking for a 1-drop. He's going to get rid of the Conference here, leaving us the Fairer Spell, which again kind of helps us to see that maybe he doesn't have too much here. Oh, and we do see that he does have the All-Seed. This would be an excellent time to use the Lowrite if I had one, but that's probably why he was planning on using the Look of Corruption to try to get rid of a potential Lowrite before the All-Seed play. So before the upkeep here, we're going to use the Arwens to pump up the Hippos. This is now a 16-15 Hippo. We definitely have a way to be able to get around pretty much any kind of block situation that he might be putting up. So we're going to go ahead and play this McKay. Just helps us keep consistency up. Maybe we can see into a Lowrite I don't know why I show him that I draw into a McKay here, and that's just a misplay. You don't have to show with McKay, it's just grab one of the cards. A Lorite off the top there with the McKay would have been really, really good, because it would have just given me really solid protection here. So what we're doing in response is we're going to go ahead and say that Fuma Shuriken on the All-Seed cannot block. Also a little bit suboptimal here. We could have waited to see what he blocked with. If he blocks with the Layla, then I wouldn't have used the Fuma Shuriken, and I'd be 1 will up. And I could just use the McKay. If he blocks with the All-Seed, I could use the McKay and the Fuma Shuriken to kill it. Just make it more optimal. The Layla goes away. He doesn't have anything in response after I've killed the Layla, and so I'm going to go ahead and use the Arwen to pump up and take him down to 8 life. So the reason why having this low life is super important is because it's very easy for this deck to pump something to be 8 damage and then bullet ball for lethal. This is definitely threatening that, and again, we do not want to give him time to take advantage of doing any of that ramping stuff. So at that point in time, we're just going to go ahead and pass the turn, leaving ourselves a little exposed, but we do have 1 will available. Finally seeing that Spear of the Valkyrie, but he knows there's a Fair spell in hand, so that's immediately going to get countered. Although with the other Look of Corruption, he could take it, which would be pretty smart. Then he could use Spear of the Valkyrie to try to... It wouldn't necessarily kill anything, although it could kill the Hippo. And then gain him some life as well. Mana Transmuter coming down here, paying double white, or paying 300, take himself down to 500 life, pay white, and then we're going to go ahead and see an Odin's Judgment. So the Odin's Judgment, in response to the Odin's Judgment, we're going to sack those creatures to the altar here, so he at least has a way to bring out a unit if he needs to. And then just has the 1 will left over, which we're going to see cast for a Look of Corruption. You see he has a second one in hand too, so really here representing a lot of potential damage. He knows there's a Hippo coming down, there's a Beast Conference. Even if I had 1 more will here, like the Hippo with Bullet Ball is technically lethal. I just need another target, and I need to have enough will to be able to make it happen. So the Hippo makes sense. It's the cheapest target for me to set up for Bullet Ball tricks. Calling into our 4th stone. See, I do have the Lorite, which feels really, really nice. Playing McKay. Not showing him this time. So the other cool thing is here is if he tries to get a little bit too greedy, I mean, with that conference in hand, I can potentially Beast Conference up the McKay, and then you're like, again, it's really weird where like if he plays a creature, I can just you know, Beast Conference the McKay, pump it up, and then recover, and then Bullet Ball for lethal. I just have to be really careful here because I have to kind of find the way that he can't interact with the pump, which is the trickiness here. See, we're going to get super greedy here, going down to 1 life, do Freed from the Altar. Paying the 1. Probably going to go grab an Athenia here. The other option would be to grab a an All-Seed potentially, but we are going to see the Athenia, and he's going to have to tap out to do it. That does leave him with an interesting position in regards to being able to control the board state, since he has the altar. I'm going to go ahead and sack McKay to the trigger of Athenia here. Pays 1 more for a Look of Corruption. In response to that, just so we have it in there, we're going to go ahead and flash in the Lorite, just so I have that creature on board, because again, he's at 100 life here. It's going to go ahead and take the Beast Conference. Moving into my turn. So, admittedly, I make a little bit of a misplay here. We move to recovery. I'm kind of thinking about what I want to do, whether or not I want to try to pump up fluorite here with this stone before recovery or anything else. Ultimately, deciding that I am just going to recover. Mainly reason being I don't have a way to stop the Athenia like tap trigger, and he's only at 1 life, so I'm really just trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to do this. My thought being that I can kind of maybe pump it and then cast Nature's Beauty or do something ultimately just to be able to survive or whatever. But the misplay here is I call for stone, and then having this stone, the ultimate play here is just to cast Bullet Ball, like cast an Awakened Bullet Ball, and we win the game. Because at this point in time, he only has 2 runes revealed, so he doesn't have a way to life gain off of Athenia. However, off of Astema. However, I completely forget that he has to have 3 runes in order to drain, and that's my mistake. And so we try to go to cast Nature's Beauty in response to the cast of the Athenia trigger. We're going to go ahead and shortcut it to get around it by pumping up with +2/+6 with the Sand Awakening, so that I'll survive the -2/-2, and then I can still swing through for lethal here. Unfortunately, this puts me at a Bullet Ball range. He's going to go ahead and sack the Athenia to the altar. At that point in time, I don't have a Lorite to stop the Athenia trigger, and I have to lose Lorite. This ultimately is going to cost me this game. This is an important reason why you just need to remember all the cards, and just being careful about remembering that certain cards don't have certain effects until you have certain runes. So Astema, in this situation, with him being tapped out, him having a creature on board for me to hit with the Lorite for 1 damage, ultimately that was game, and I just handed it away. I just had to cast Bullet Ball, and then the game was over at that point in time. Simply because of the way that Bullet Ball reads. So we're going to go ahead and cast Bunku here. We don't have another Resonator to be able to cheat in, and then we just have to pass the turn. So we're going to go ahead and, before recovery, sacrifice the altar, probably to go grab another Athenia, just put it on field, force me to have the Bunbuku trigger. This is a little bit greedy from him, because if I did have the Molmol, then I could cheat it in and kill the Athenia, but then the Athenia would force me to kill the Molmol, and essentially back to square one all around. But now the altar's off board. The problem is now he can easily just cast another rune and start gaining life back and anything. And he's also got the Spear of the Valkyrie with an Athenia on board at this point that are now live. So really just ultimately just going to play it out and see if I can maybe squeeze it out. But it is not looking good. He also gets access to Whispers of an Angels here, which is going to gain him 8 life back immediately, take him up to 900. And then I am tapped out on a clear board, so he can start putting pressure in against me too. He could even play the Oborozuki and still leave up Will for the Spirit of the Valkyrie if he wanted. And this is just one of the things that is kind of standard across the altar builds, is if you miss that opportunity when you've out-pressured them, they always usually recover. We've seen a lot of different games where these altar decks have gone down super low on Will, and then the opponent can't quite close, and so they stabilize, and this is a good indicator of that. You usually only get 1 chance, if you're the aggression, to actually close out the game, and if you're not able to do so, it can be a big difficulty here. So as you see, he's got 3 Will open, which gives him access to, if I manage to kill one of his things, he's got access to both Life-Severing Blade and the he's got Life-Severing Blade, and he's got access to the Spear of the Valkyrie. Choosing not to attack with the Athenia here, which I think is interesting, mainly probably saving it for the tap effect to just punish anything that I try to play. Not much in my hand here to really work with. So ultimately just having to pass the turn. See a Blade of Fate, that's even more removal for him to just advantage out. And this turn, I imagine the Oborozuki is probably just going to kill me. It's probably at least to be able to gain him 2,000 life, take him back up to 29. And at that point in time, there really is just no coming back for this match. Or this game, I should say. I see Aaron has Belial here. Just a handful of answers essentially at this point. Can choose to just Judgment Brunhild. At that point in time, I'm going to go ahead and say, well, I'm going to flash in Lorite. It doesn't really matter. I don't have a way to get Lorite to be big enough to survive, but I just don't want him to get another Athenia, therefore forcing a sack of my stone. The thought being that if I can find some way to prevent this damage from the... See, this would have been a fine time to have not used the Fuma Shuriken, because then what I could do is once he burns these 2 counters to try to give it the life gain, I could go, well, in response to that Fuma Shuriken, now it can't attack. At that point in time, he'd still only be at 900 life, and I could potentially cheese out a way to get Lorite to be big enough, you know, to push through for lethal. Looking at my hand here, looking at the board state, seeing that he's at 2900 life, and he's got access to Athenia, so he can just immediately try to just stop anything that I do, plus a handful of removal that I don't know anything about. We're going to go ahead and pump up the Lorite, let it be, he lets it happen. It's a 2-3 now, we call for stone. Looking at my hand, looking at the board state, and ultimately deciding that there is no way for me to get through this board, so we're going to go ahead and probably just concede and say we'll move on to the next game. As we go into the next game, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell down below so you're notified when all of our videos goes live, and consider supporting the channel by being a member here on YouTube or by checking it out on Patreon for all the cool exclusive perks that come with supporting us. Thank you guys so much. Let's go to the next game. So going into game 2 here, I am choosing to go on the play. Want to try to pressure down as fast as possible. It does give the Aaron's list a little bit of an advantage in terms of having 1 white source available at the beginning, which makes things a little awkward for him hitting Odin's Judgment when I'm a creature-based deck. But the thought being that if he really needs to get that greedy, I'm probably already in a position to win. At that point in time, he's going to probably wipe his own board, and I can set up for taking that advantage and actually with the bullet ball trick. So we see a first turn Hippo coming on here, which is great. Revealing that I have a Molmi in hand. Seeing a double white stone off the top, actually not what this deck wants to see. Double white, it feels really awkward, so he says, well, I guess I'll take advantage and draw into something else and get the life gain now rather than later. Go up to 48 using the Whispers of an Angel, especially since he knows he's going to be taking 8 or 6 from, at least from the Hippo here going into his second turn. So swinging in for 6 before deciding to cast anything, take him down to 42. Down comes the Arwen. We do have a Lorite in hand at this point. The trick here being that if he wants to commit his time to trying to kill the Arwen, that's fine. I'm actually okay with it. If he tries to pull some kind of shenanigans here, then we flash in Lorite, which immediately turns on the Arwen. So it makes for some very interesting play lines here. It's kind of a little bit of a trap. Especially since we have the Hippo on board. It's something that this deck really likes to do in the second turn, is just play Hippo turn 1, Arwen turn 2, leave up a Will open for a Lorite or a Fair Spell or something like that, to be able to punish and kind of force the opponent to say, well, am I going to play with my game plan, potentially walk into a Lorite, and then suddenly Arwen is live, or going to waste a turn to kill an Arwen and then still just take 6 damage from the Hippo. So we're going to see the altar come down here. I say, you know what, that's fine. I don't really, it's just an altar. I'm not going to waste a Lorite on a cast of an altar just to turn on Arwen. So we're just going to go ahead and go into the next turn here. McKay, because, oh no, Molmi actually, just for additional aggression here, we're going to go ahead and swing in for 6. He says that's fine. Arwen's going to pump it up, take 11, take him down to 31, and once again, we're still leaving that 1 will open. It is very important in this matchup to always never really tap out. If you tap out at all, you just let the Altar deck do whatever it wants with the most ridiculous combos. If you always leave some will open playing the green deck, then you at least have some interaction, and you can maybe catch them off guard, force them into a bad play line, steal some advantage from them if they don't have a way to stop it. Especially if they're not running green too, you can kind of make them stumble and then again capitalize and punish. So you never really want to tap out in this matchup. In comes the Look of Corruption, with still 3 will available. We have the Lorite, but the reason why we don't cast it here is it would actually probably make him think to just go ahead and do the board wipe here, which is not really what we want him to be doing. It would tap him out, yes, but he'd be stealing 3 creatures, and we really want to keep that board state up. Interestingly enough, here we have Lorite and Disciples in hand, so this makes for a really interesting decision. So he can choose here to take the Lorite or the Disciples. He chooses to take the Lorite. It actually is a better position for him, knowing that, you know, again, I have to be really careful here. I don't want to overcommit to a board, because if I overcommit, then he can just Odin's Judgment and then I can't catch up. So I actually have to kind of hold back and keep some aggression ready, just in case he does board wipe, so I can immediately reestablish and keep the pressure up. And Lorite 7 Disciples is an excellent card to hold up because it's a 3-drop swiftness. If I get Lorite, it can be Flying Drain, can get over stuff immediately just for 4 will, which is about the time that he's probably going to be doing the board wipe anyway, and can potentially just close out the game. See, he does have a mana transmuter in hand. Unfortunately, doesn't have a way to cast it, so he just has to pass the turn there, which feels great for me. We're gonna get to take a free turn worth of damage before we play any cards. That's another really important thing to do in these matchups, is just before you play any cards, you need to swing in and take the damage, force them to be kind of on the back foot. So I'll go to 45 thanks to Mole Me, and then hit him for 7, down to 24. And then we're once again going to go ahead and do Hippo Arwen. He lets that go through 2, and we take him down to 13. So this sets us up for a next turn Nature's Beauty, which is essentially telling Aaron that he has to wipe my board right now, and we left him at above 1,100 or 1,000 life, so that Belial in his hand, not going to get cast this turn. Up to potential 5 will here. Even a Athenia doesn't really help him here. You see he has that Twin Swords of Hope and Despair. That's a little interesting, but it is quick cast, and so it leaves him vulnerable to a Fairer. And he also can't tap out because he knows that I'm running Nature's Beauty, so he has to spend the turn kind of killing the board here. One thing that he could do is something along the lines of being able to at least reestablish on 1-drop, is he could just Odin's Judgment and leave open 2. He could play the Mana Transmuter, sack it to the altar after paying 3. That puts him at 1,000 life so that he can play Belial, which is pretty interesting, and at least keeps him a pressure on board. Lots of different potential options here. Looks like we are seeing the at least come down. We're going to, oh, yep, we're definitely not seeing an Odin's Judgment this turn. So we're going to pay 3 to reduce another black, go down to 1,000, sacrifice to the altar, and then play Belial. This point in time, having the Ruin Stories in hand gives us a couple interesting options. We can either go the safe route of just saying Ruin Story, cancel the spell, he can't pay 1 more, and that will lock out the game at this point. The other option would be potentially to go Ruin Story to bring back Lorite, cast Lorite, cancel the trigger, which that feels a little greedy, because he could then sack it to altar, and he has a 2-drop for altar, which could be all he needs to kind of continue to reestablish. But maybe even that doesn't really matter. I don't know if there's a 2-drop in the deck that prevents a Nature's Beauty kill at this point. But ultimately, the safest way is to just say cast the Ruin Story, prevent him, cancel the Belial unless he pays 1. He can't, and so at that point, he just scoops it up. So we're going to go into game 3. So back on the draw, Chamimi Beast showing that it is possible to take down this list. You just have to hit it hard and fast and not let them kind of get into their combo rhythm, or just punish the combo rhythm as hard as possible. First turn, Explore the Unknown in response to a first turn Layla, really just looking for those altars, or the Lorites. Ultimately, we see a Disciple, which is a pretty big threat here if we have a Lorite in hand. I don't think we do, although we might. First turn Hippo coming down. So both of these, and we see an Eagle Me come down. Really not the greatest card in this matchup, just because of how weak it is, but it is another 1-drop, and doesn't give Aaron a ton of information. Plus, Eagle Me does turn into additional, technically 7 damage if it connects and then banishes to produce for something else. No play on turn 2, which feels pretty good for us. You know, no turn 2 altar, so we can probably swing in pretty comfortably here. We're gonna go ahead and see that McKay come down. Looks like double Hippo. Oh, Momi Hippo, something else. We're gonna go ahead and grab the Hippo, just to be able to have a backup if we need it. And at that point in time, we're gonna go ahead and swing in for 6. He's gonna block. We're gonna sacrifice them. In response to the block, he's gonna Power of Immortality, and then in response to the Power of Immortality, we're gonna be K. So that's a little bit. The sequencing there would have worked out in my favor either way. The only way that would have been potentially a better option would have been if he had waited until I sacrificed the McKay to hit with the Power of Immortality. Ultimately, still probably feel fine because I'm still sitting on Favor Spell. This just works out better for me. Hits for the 6, he gets the other stone, and the Layla's off board. So going up to 4 Darkness Stones here, no altar on board, which is nice. And sitting on a potential into next turn based on what he plays, Lorite into 7 Disciples for a ton of damage. See, we have that Blade of Faith in hand. That's not really doing much as he just doesn't have access to White Will right now. We do see an All Seed. All Seed feels a little bit suboptimal when we don't have access to an altar. Ultimately, though, probably going to see that Mana Transmuter come down. Does give him access to White by paying for it at least, so he can get that Hippo off the board. Paying 300, go down to 31. We are going to see that Blade of Faith come down to kill the Hippo. It's not quick cast, nothing I can do about it. So ultimately that guy is just going to die. And again, we are not playing the Whirlwind technique here. So that is just going to die. Calling for our next stone. That backup Hippo coming into town. Showing the same Eagle Me as before, and then going ahead and burning Energize to play it, mainly so that we have 2 will available for Ruin Story. This would be potentially, based on how this goes, if he's going to cast any kind of like Athenia or any kind of really heavy drop that we want to kind of force some weird plays on. Paying 3 here with Mana Transmuter to then cast Whispers of an Angel, which essentially gains him 8 life, so recoups that life spent from the 2 Mana Transmuters so far. Very, very strong part of this deck. Finally seeing that White Stone, so suddenly we have access to potential Odin's Judgment if he needs to. Ultimately, though, he's doing a really good job in maintaining pressure on the board state here. So plenty of Wilfred to play here. Down comes the Altar, which is the perfect first turn play, first play to do here. The weirdness is that since he decided to use the Mana Transmuter, like have the Mana Transmuter on board, it makes playing with Ruin Story a little awkward. What we could have done is, so what we're doing here to kind of force a weirdness and prevent him from getting too much advantage off of the altar is we're going to go ahead and say All Seed can enter. And then in response to All Seed's enter effect, we're going to use Ruin Story to say sacrifice a unit. So the reason why we did this is if I cast to say sack a unit in response to the All Seed cast, yes, he loses the Transmuter, but he can just sack the Transmuter to the altar. So it's not as much advantage. Ultimately, though, it probably would have been better to do that just because the Transmuter's off board. but he would have 1 counter on it. But that makes it weird because he could go grab a second Layla and then have 2 Laylas that he could tap for all seed to do, you know, popping stuff or anything else like that. So it's really just about kind of these interesting interactions and playing around keeping counters off the altar or punishing the altar when it gets banished with Lorite. So on my turn, we're going to go ahead and see the McKay come into play, trying to shape the hand a little bit better. Ultimately, just trying to dig it for a Lorite at this point, I believe, because I don't think there's one in hand. And you can see just how quickly the Altar Brunhild list can get just really, really far ahead in terms of will. So Eagle Me coming in for 3. Hoping to take him down to 30. Hippo coming in for 6. Gonna see the block, the sacrifice with the McKay. We're gonna go ahead and see the sack to altar and say, yeah, here's take your 6, take him down to 24. Arwen coming in here, just to try to potentially prevent anything from getting killed or set up for a better next turn. Potentially set up for a lethal push next turn. Feels a little bit awkward just because it's playing against a black deck and I'm pretty tapped out, and he has so much will to be able to play with. But again, take the opportunities. This deck pretty much just has to take the opportunities where he can. You can't really keep your foot off the gas, otherwise you're just going to fall too far behind. Looking at his runes here, trying to want to maybe shape his hand a little bit. See, he does have the messenger in hand, which is pretty interesting. So he could use messenger and then freed from the altar, which essentially means pay 1, pay 4 life, draw a card, search for anything. There's a lot of value to be gained off of that, especially since he could pay 7 life and use mana transmuter for it instead. Leave all that will open for his next turn. We are just going to see the straight fiend from the altar, or freed from the altar, taking him down to 2,000. Going to go search probably for an Athenia. It is the most common card, that or Astema, to grab off of freed from the altar in this current meta. Hasn't used mana transmuter yet, so he can pay the 3 life with mana transmuter. We're going to just go ahead and see Odin's Judgment. Before that, we're going to sack it. So he's just clearing the board here, and then, you know, setting up for a potential Athenia next turn, to be able to say start stacking your stones, because he also can play Astema here. He's now at 4 will, so it's going to be a 2 grand, you know, 500 swing. He gains 5, I lose 5. Now he's sitting at potential double Astema. You know, he can sacrifice the Astema to get a counter to get another Astema. So we're really going to see this game kind of go downhill pretty quick if this deck can't keep up. Really, the longer that altar stays on board without a Lorite to be able to punish it, the worse it gets for this Chamimi deck. Or really any aggressive deck, to be honest. Especially since they can, you know, flash in an Oborozuki, give it drain, you know, and block, and then suddenly gain a ton of life on my turn, and then go to their turn, and just it's too much life for the aggressive deck to be able to make back up. We saw that in Philadelphia GP. There were just some times where the life gain decks with Oborozuki gained so much that the aggressive decks were just like, well, I don't even have that much damage left in my hand, even if I played perfectly and you weren't playing cards to stop them. So there's just no way for me to really come back at that point. We are going to see another All-Seed come into play here. Once again, we're going to see a similar kind of play where I say, well, in response to the All-Seed's trigger, we'll go ahead and cast Ruin Story, say you have to pick. The All-Seed's probably going to get sacrificed again, but we're kind of okay with that because this prevents him from having a removal spell. You know, the tap tap 2 dudes removal spell that he would have advantage of. So in comes he just sacrifices it to the Ruin Story, so he can't sacrifice it to the altar. Can ultimately sacrifice the Layla to the altar and get a second Astima. There's just a lot that can happen here, especially since he still potentially has Power of Immortalities in hand. This deck does run Power of Immortality in the main board. We're going to see Layla sack it to get the second counter, and probably going to see an Athenia cast here just to punish the board state, and then a swing in with Astima at that point in time. And we're getting close to a point where Astima drains might just be lethal. So 7 coming in here. I do have the Mole Meme, which gains me some life, but we're up to 28. Instant speed Astima would not be a good thing for me to experience here, because it's just more drain. 23 to 27 potentially. Sure, I gain 5, go back up to 28, 28, 27. He blocks with Athenia. We just start losing a lot of advantage real quick. So the Momi is going to swing in, and he's going to use the -4/-4, so potentially hitting him for 3 here. I am going to try to trigger to gain the 5 life. We say, you know what, that's fine. Let's just do 3 damage, go up to 33, 19 to 33. Not really worry too much about anything else at this point. Second Molmi coming in. See, I do have a Mole in hand, but no Boonbaku, no way to cheat it in. At this point in time, I'm hoping just to catch him kind of off guard, find an opportunity to punish an Astima or something like that, to be able to do the bullet ball trick and just push him out for lethal. Messenger of the Sun coming in. Second Messenger of the Sun in hand. In moving to combat, we're going to go ahead and say Fuma Shuriken on the Athenia. This is actually incorrect in my opinion in looking back at it. He was attempting to swing with the Athenia. I would survive the swing, no problem. And it would mean that he can't do -4/-4 on my side of the turn. So instead, I'm just going to take 6 from the Chamimi. And he also just now has a blocker. And it puts me down a well as well. Calling a stone. See, he does have a couple of life-severing blades, which he can just turn on at a moment's notice thanks to Altar. That's another thing that Altar strangely does, is just suddenly makes life-severing blades free, you know, much cheaper to cast. Whenever you need to turn it on, you just sacrifice a meaningless card, generate some advantage, and then pay 1 to kill something else. It's very, very good. So just passing the turn there, moving to recovery. Gonna go ahead and say Nature's Beauty, just to see what we can try to push through in here. Swinging in for 7. Trigger to gain 5 life. Tries to do the -4. We're gonna go ahead and try to cancel at least this one with the 3 Beast Conference. This will gain me another 4 life. So I'll be up to 35 life after this. We're going to see, in response to that, though, we're going to see a Power of Immortality, draws him 2 cards, and then he'll be able to, he's doing it on the Athenia, so then what happens is he can sacrifice the Athenia to the altar, trigger, when it dies, one of my Momis has to die, the Athenia comes back in, trigger, when it comes back in, I have to sacrifice the other Momi, completely wipes my board, just drew 2 cards, generated advantage, and now at that point in time, we're practically impossible to come back. Forces both the sacks, he can go get a double Astima, at that point in time with the creatures that's in the air. So I just go ahead and concede, and we move on to the next game, or move on to the end of the match. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Deck list will be up later this week. And until next time, this was DMO73 saying class dismissed.